you got to be diligent to your plan. My plan was I'm going to make this work no matter what.
Hello and welcome to Pillars of Wealth Creation, where we talk about creating financial success with a special focus on business and real estate. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. Now, let's get to it. Hello, welcome back to Pillars of Wealth Creation. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. With me, I got LeAnn Riley. LeAnn, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm glad I'm inside. It's snowing.
Is it snowing? Oh, man. Well, it is December, so, that happens sometimes in Minnesota, right? So a little bit about LeAnn. She's been teaching the art of real estate investing made simple for over 25 years. Forever in love with real estate. She's an expert at helping people buy, sell, and invest. She's an active realtor, and she's proud to lead the Encore Investment Team with Realty Group in Minnesota. LeAnn helps people get started or scale a portfolio without fear or confusion using her proven profit formula coaching program. Her system of online training and weekly group coaching helps students acquire cash flowing properties in as little as 60 days. And she also built a multi-million-dollar portfolio of properties, including residential, multifamily, condo development, commercial, vacation properties, all across several states. So lots more, but I'll let LeAnn give the rest of the intro. So LeAnn, why don't you dive in a little bit, give our listeners a little bit more about your background and what your focus is today.
Okay. I'm going to tell you from the very beginning that story of how did I get in real estate, and it was I got divorced is what happened. And then I rented a house and I had roommates. And I was tired of those roommates. And I was complaining to my older brother, Terry. And Terry owned a bunch of rental properties. And Terry said, well, buy a duplex. And then you can live in one side and the other side will pay for it. And I went, yeah, but I just got divorced and I don't have any money. And he said, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I said, huh? And that's how it all began, because he helped me figure out how to do a contract for deed and some seller financing and get that very first building in Columbia Heights. And it was a triplex.
No money, no problem.
Yep. No. And you know what? I remember I used my credit card to get the earnest money. Wow. A cash advance of $4,000 is all I needed out of my pocket. And I got that building exactly. And, many times they say friends and family is where you might get financing. And that's where I got my contract for deed, really my down payment.
Okay, nice. So you bought it on a contract for deed.
I bought it on a contract for deed, and I got another contract for my down payment.
And you got a contract for down payment. So it's a double whammy there. So you got in with essentially no money down?
$4,000 from my credit card. Yep.
Nice. And, didn't have to worry about using your credit or anything like that. So then take me, let's go farther. What next? You got that one triplex, you're living in one unit?
It's kind of a cute story because, I'm not all that handy. Let's face it, right? I'm smart, but I wasn't that handy. And, I inherited some Section 8 tenants. The lawn was up to my knees. It wasn't a great property. It was a great property, but it wasn't taken care of well, let's put it that way. So I had to learn a lot, especially about Section 8 and rentals and all that, but I needed a handyman. And I started dating a man who said, hey, my parents have a rental property. I'm a handyman. Long story short, I married the handyman a couple of years later. And actually, it was he and I who built the $14 million portfolio of rental property.
Nice. Okay. And so, you lived in the one unit and then you
rented out the other two. Exactly.
And then, so what made you just start buying more properties? I mean, you had that one, but
because I was living free.
Yeah.
And it was like, wait a minute. I've been an entrepreneur all my life. See, that's just it. I've owned other businesses, but I just didn't understand the rental business. So as soon as I got wind of how it worked, it was like, oh, I can do this. So that's when, and especially having a handyman for a husband at the time, that's a good combination. I'm the financial run the business systems person, and then I had someone who could fix them up.
Yeah.
And, we didn't have a lot of money. And so,
Did you have a job prior
yes,
to that triplex, or do you own your business?
I
Or
owned a business. And I actually was a magazine publisher.
okay.
And I started the magazine from scratch. And it was all about ballroom dancing. A national magazine. So I owned a magazine, ran a business, had about 10 employees, all of that.
Okay.
And we owned several other newspapers.
Yeah.
My mom was in the newspaper business, coincidentally.
So you had this business, then you start the rentals, and how quick did you give the business up kind of fairly quickly,
No,
or did you keep
working.
going?
I worked full time at the business, and the rentals was the side business.
And when did the rentals become the full-time business, or did they not?
Yeah, oh, absolutely, they did. They led us into a great life. But it was hardest, the first one. We all know that. We hear it all the time. The first deal is like the hardest, which was my triplex.
Yeah.
But then the first investment property together was the hardest also, because we didn't have a lot of money. And I remember I went to wealthy people I knew, family and friends, and I had a nice business plan, and nobody would give us the money. And I went to like 10, maybe 15 banks, and everybody said no. But I didn't let it stop me. You know what I did? By then we had built a brand new house out in Ham Lake. And I thought it up one day, a home equity loan. So Mr. Handyman put a screen porch and a big deck on our house, and I got a $40,000 home equity line of credit. And that is what we launched the $14 million business off of, that 40 grand.
And so was the strategy still contract for deed, or were you getting bank loans and using the down?
And you teach this, Todd, so well about networking. It's all about networking. And by that time I had met several more people in the real estate business. And there was one, Mr. Handyman took on side jobs, right? And he met this doctor down by Lake of the Isles, and I think he did some roofing for him or something, but that guy had a connection to banks and condemned properties. And he was trying to launch his son, who was 22 years old, in the business, who didn't really understand anything, but we befriended him. And we actually he would get properties from the bank 10 at a time that were condemned, and he would deal them out to people. And you guys, this is in the 80s. So just get this, 1988, maybe 90.
Yeah.
And we would buy a duplex or a fourplex from him for $50,000 that with all the papers.
Yeah.
And we would give him, we knew him. Mr. Handyman did a lot of work for him and helped him rehab houses. Okay. So we worked for him, but I would give him $1,000. I would meet him at the bank, and we'd sign a quit claim deed. No title company, nothing. Don't do it that way, you guys.
Yeah. Don't do it that way.
But that's what we did. So he financed us. We gave him $1,000. We handled our own rehabs, paid for all that. And the first one, we were flat broke by the time we got to the end. But we got it done, got the tenants in there, and we walked away with $122,000 in a check once we refied it.
So you refined then through a bank, and then.
Yep. And then we just did it over and over and over till we had 100 units in South Minneapolis.
Wow. That's awesome.
Duplexes and fourplexes. Yep.
That's great. So you learned a lot of lessons along the way. What are some of let's maybe pick out, 1, 2, maybe even 3 lessons that you learned along the way that you really use still today, that are still important for any investor, anybody, looking to build a rental portfolio?
Well, one of the lessons is you've got to track everything, or else money's flying out the back door, accounting wise and bookkeeping wise. And, I thank my dear father for teaching me that, because when I owned 7 or 8 newspapers, this took real life to learn. I didn't realize that one paper was bleeding the other one. And that happens in rental properties. You have 3 or 4. And if you're not tracking each separately, you don't know that one's making money and one's losing money. And yeah, it comes out in the wash. And so I would say one thing is you've got to track and know your numbers, because then you can make a decision before you're in the red or something happens. You can start to decide, is this working or isn't it working? And if it isn't, maybe it's time to sell that one. So that's definitely one super lesson. I still use it today. I track, and I teach people how to track their investments and really how to optimize them, because that's important. There's ways to make more money, but you need to know what to do and then take action. That's number 2, take action. Some of this stuff is hard. If you're a landlord and you have to raise the rent and you're sort of scared of the people, it's not going to work very well. You have to take control of your business. That's number 2, take action. And then when it's time to raise the rent, even in the eviction moratorium, the students in my coaching program, they raise their rents. And you can, with the if you do it all legally and correctly and nicely, you can do that.
Still raise rents. Yep.
Absolutely. And let's see, number 3 is, I would say the third one that still today I use in all my businesses, be kind to people and generous. And it always comes back.
Yeah, that one's so, so important. Just be kind, be generous, be willing to give. It seems like you're right. It always comes back. And there's some times where you want to tell people to, go take a hike, right? And and maybe sometimes you do, but for the most part, I think killing them with kindness is going to be the better answer. And I can think back of times where, when I was younger and wasn't quite that way, was maybe didn't treat people the way they should have been treated, or because they did a wrong to me, I thought it would be okay to treat them a different way. And it never comes back in a good way, right? I think that's such a valuable lesson right there, is just to be kind and treat people with the respect they deserve.
Yeah. And you just never know. I mean, it's amazing what I say is it opens your affluence or wealth door, let's call it, or it opens it, because that's the energy you have and put out there. Yeah. And I know, Todd, you give back all the time. And that's what I love about real estate investors. We're kind of open books.
Yep.
Happy to share.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So now a lot of what you do is through your education, your coaching. You've got the courses, you do a YouTube video.
I have a YouTube channel. LeAnn Riley Real Estate. And
you've got a meetup.
I got a meetup, couple of meetups.
Yeah. So let's dive in a little bit to that. For why did you start teaching?
It's part of who I am, is a teacher. You're a teacher. It's part of who I am, is always helping people succeed or move to the next level. And actually, even then, when I was doing all that inner city real estate, and just so you know, I managed 100 units myself with one staff person. And I didn't go there. The handyman guys were there. I never went there. I managed it and met a tenant at a restaurant or somewhere in a public place. But what I want to say is that it takes a team for sure. But I have the gene of always helping people. That's just how I live my life. I'm generous. Absolutely. Yeah. And so it made sense to, what do I know best here? I know real estate. And once we had, the real goal of building that portfolio, yes, to make money, but also to help people. And I was able to combine helping, we specialize in Section 8 inner city, and I helped a lot of people, and I learned I actually invented a course, Todd, way back in the early 90s called the Pride Principle. And I taught landlords how to manage Section 8 property, because it takes a delicate boundaries is what I would call it takes, to really respect all of your tenants. And yet you got to hold a boundary to who's the boss here.
Yeah.
And those people, they never even knew that my then husband, Philip, owned the property. They thought he was the handyman, and we did it that way on purpose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he would say, you got to call the office if you need something. You can't talk, I don't know.
Yeah. And that's the way you have to handle it. You gotta, if they, and really any tenant, resident, I'd rather not them know I'm the owner. I'd rather them treat me, because then they're going to treat you differently if they know that you're the owner. And unfortunately, there's a lot of misconception. All landlords are, evil, and they're all rich and filthy rich, and they're charging us money and blah, blah, blah. But I just think it keeps the business, and your personal life personal.
Exactly. And I love the part where I could help people, because maybe they couldn't pay their rent, or they got in some stress, or usually it was a social issue happened to their family. I was very connected with all of the social service agencies, and I still am today. And I can at least direct people, go talk to these people. They'll help you come up with your rent, get you through this rough patch, and then you can stay. And I had tenants for 12, 14 years, because we could help everybody. We're all humans. Stuff happens.
Yeah, definitely. So LeAnn, what's a mistake that you've made, and how can our listeners learn from it?
I have a great one. I'm a numbers person, right? And when you're looking at deals, if the numbers are great, that gets me excited. And I once bought a building on Chicago Avenue in Minneapolis South, and it was by the numbers. The numbers were killer, but guess what? I was buying directly from the seller, and after I bought it, the seller lied. And I didn't have a cash cow on my hand. I had a bit of a problem. So I learned, don't always believe, really do your due diligence is what I learned from that.
Yeah. What could you have done differently? Anything in particular?
I could have interviewed the tenants, or asked for an estoppel, maybe, to make, it was a commercial building. It was a barber shop, a beauty shop, and a store upstairs, and a business in the garage in the back.
Got it. Yeah. And so the tenants that were there just,
I got leases, but they were bogus.
Yeah. Bogus leases. Tenants weren't paying rent. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't so bad. It turns out I owned the barbershop in the end. They were chairs that were rented, and I didn't realize that. Now I own a barbershop that I don't know how to run a barbershop, and I didn't even know you needed a master barber, and the master barber quit. And I learned quick.
Yeah. So did you start cutting hair then?
No, but I learned how to get a master barber.
Yeah.
Barbers, I had to learn really, really fast and get all new leases.
Yeah.
I had to go way over my comfort zone.
Well, and that's, obviously a valuable lesson in itself. We getting beyond your comfort zone, because you had something that got thrown at you. You thought you were getting something different, which, through, obviously the seller was dishonest, but you didn't do enough due diligence.
I didn't do the right due diligence. I did not.
But now you had to zig, and you had to make some adjustments, and you had to get creative in order to make this deal at least stay above water. Were you able to?
And I owned it maybe 4 or 5 years.
Were you able to make money on it?
Yeah, I made money, and actually I bought it. I had some private money. I
Perfect.
bought it with, and he made a bunch of money too. We both
Yeah.
made money.
Ended up a happy story in the end. It doesn't always end up a happy story when something like that happens. So don't take LeAnn's happy story for that. It just
Yeah.
happens to
It's,
everybody.
it's only because I was willing to be really, really uncomfortable
Yeah.
and solve it.
That's awesome. Okay. So somebody that's trying to get to the next level, or somebody that's even just trying to start their business, what does it take to get there? What's it take to be in that position, to be able to get, you went from 0 to 100 properties.
Units.
Like
Yeah.
what does it take to get there and to do that?
It takes a plan, and it takes really a lot of energy and diligence. Like when you make up your mind to build X business, it takes a plan, but then it takes all those coaches and mentors that help, because I utilized all of that. The people that knew more than me, I wasn't afraid to ask the question. I was afraid a lot of times. And sometimes, like, take that building that had all that happen. I buried my head in the sand for a couple months first, because I didn't want to face it. But then I was able to make some phone calls to people who knew more than I and ask for ideas and suggestions and then do them. So that's what I mean by you got to be diligent to your plan. My plan was, I'm going to make this work no matter what.
When you talk about mentors, a lot of people struggle. How do I find a mentor? Where do I go? What do I do? I'm looking for help. What's your advice?
Well, I would say, you can always Google it and all that, but then you need to meet with each one and see if they fit. It's all
Right.
about the fit. If their style and what they're teaching is what you're looking for. Because if you're like in real estate, there's, 7-10 strategies. Make sure that they're teaching the one you're wanting to do. And if you don't know which strategy, you better get some help and nail that down, because and that can all happen by talking to the different prospects that you might want for coaching. All depends on where you're trying to get to. And I would hope that they're there.
Yeah. Yeah.
They should be there to where
Right.
you're trying to go.
Hopefully, well, at least they're on their journey,
A
right?
good way
A
there,
good
yeah.
way, a good
And
way.
ahead of you. They got to be
Yeah,
ahead of you.
they better be well ahead of you.
Yeah.
Years ahead of you. Um, and I think I like that you're talking about really getting to know them and meeting them and making sure that they fit, because I think a good mentor they don't necessarily have to have the same personality as you, but they have to have a personality that you're going to enjoy being around. Their drive is going to drive you, right? And it's different for everybody, right? Some people will respond really well to somebody who's super energetic and excitable, and some people don't. Some people want somebody that's more stoic and some just, so everybody responds to different people. So you got to figure, okay, who are you going to respond to? What kind of values do you want that person to have?
Here's the
To
other
get that
thing.
fit.
I'm a certified master coach, trained, as a life and business coach. And I
Yeah.
think that makes a difference, because yes, I know real estate, but now I get to add my coaching skills, which are uniquely different, that everyone has their own answer.
Yeah.
And we have to help them find it their way. And a commando coach, because I once, he's a very well-known, wealthy real estate person. I won't name names, but he lured me over to work for him. I haven't worked for anybody but myself for 30 years, but someone lured me over for a short time. And the deal I made with him was, I'll come work here if you personally will coach me. He's retired now at a young age. That's how wealthy he was. And he said, okay. And he was a horrible coach. He was a commando coach. Just do this and do that. Well, that didn't motivate me. It didn't work for me. Getting a list of go get this done didn't work.
Yeah. And that I think a good coach is a is a guide. A good mentor is a
Yeah.
guide. They're not a task giver.
Yes.
If you need somebody to give you tasks, then go get a job. But if you need somebody to guide you, if you need somebody to give you some advice or ask you good questions, that's the other thing. A good mentor or a coach is going to ask you good questions.
Yes.
They're not going to do it for you. They're not going to tell you exactly what to do. They're going to be your guide. They're going to be your Yoda, right?
Yes.
That's what I look for when I look for mentors, is who's going to be able to be my Yoda, not who's going to give me all the answers. Because again, if you need all the answers, if you need somebody to give you all that, then you just need to go get a job.
And I agree with you. It's so important to make sure you fit, because I have a digital marketing program, it's online, you buy it and then you get the weekly coaching. And I had to learn how to be a digital marketer. So I
Yeah.
hired a very well-known digital marketer, and personality wise, we're not a good mix. And I had a hard time listening to all his videos, and
The digital marketer.
yes, his
Okay.
style and mine don't match.
Yeah.
And it became so hard for me and he had way too much content, and it was just difficult because it wasn't the best match. Now he's a top digital marketer, and I used many of his things, but I had to get over my resistance to him.
So, LeAnn, what do you do? You've got the coaching program. What do you do to market it, to sell it? Let's talk that strategy.
I used to use Facebook a lot,
So
and
were you
that's,
paying for ads or?
oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I do teach people all over the US. So I have beginners and portfolio builders from different states. Somewhere in the middle of all this, I took a gig coaching and training for Dean Graciosi and the Property Brothers and those guys. And the part of the job I loved to travel. Just so you know, I just bought an RV. I'm really excited.
You're going to go travel around the country?
I'm going to go hit the road. Yeah. And I bought a
Nice.
new Dodge Durango to pull that bugger.
Okay, perfect.
So I'm in my truck now, and just got the RV. Anyway, I love to travel. So I took this job where I was coaching real estate investors all over the United States. And what I loved was the part where I got to go to wherever and then help them find real estate deals. And because I got to integrate the travel with the real estate. But I learned a lot about a gazillion markets through that, and cities. And I've been so many places I would have never been looking at real estate because of that job. I did it for a couple of years.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, all right, let's shift a little bit. I got a couple questions I want to ask you here. What are your goals? What are your goals moving forward here over the next, couple of years?
Over the next couple of years, I run a team of realtors, the Encore Investment Team. It's to build the team, because an investment property realtor is different than a residential realtor. And there's a unique skill that I have now taught to them. And back to that purpose, a couple years ago, 3 years ago, I decided I could retire, but I'm not, that's not in the cards for me. I like to be active, and I have a lot of energy and things to teach.
Yeah, you'd get so bored. I know you'd get so bored being retired.
Yeah, it would have worked.
Do it. You'd be back at it within 2 months. I know.
Oh yeah. In fact, I'm looking at a new thing of RV rentals now.
Are you?
Okay. Instead of short-term rentals, I think I'm going to do RV rental. I love creating something new. Let's just face it.
Yep.
So what's up for me is some traveling, and you'll be seeing me traveling realtor. I'll be interviewing people in person out there.
Okay.
And checking out real estate markets and all that in my RV. But I also have a nice solid team of realtors here to help investors. So I'm building the team. And what's coming, I'm so excited. One of my agents is going to be my full-time assistant now. And so that helps me transition a little bit more to be able to travel.
That's great.
So I'm excited about that. And then my there's always new education to add to the proven profit formula. And that's what I like about checking out other markets. And I know you're all over in a lot of markets. That's how you learn. How do they do it there? And then you can bring that home to how we do it here. And the other thing I gotta say to you people listening, the name of my company is Real Freedom Now. And the reason it's that is way back with all those rentals and the 100 units. Here's the cool thing. We traveled with our children every summer, all summer in an RV. And I've already been all over the whole United States and a bunch of Europe in an RV. That's why for me, that's how you live with real freedom.
Yep. I love it. So LeAnn, you've got your program and you got to have some like real golden nuggets that you're really proud of that you put in there. What's a golden nugget or two that you can pass down that's in your program that so people have to pay good money to? What can you give our listeners for free today? That's something you're really proud of that's in there.
I think one of the things is I have in there the 7 secrets to a wealthy mindset, and it's part of the program. And I know at the conference, I did one little tiny nugget piece of that, but that's that mindset piece of bringing it to you, the abundance. And it's about having that open mind. And there's so many ways to get that. And one of them, I love this, where you said, you'll never retire. You asked me about my favorite book. And right now I got a book called Ikigai, and it's spelled Ikigai. And it's a Japanese word where they study how the blue zone communities have happiness. And one of the things is they don't have a word called retire. And what leads to happiness is being busy doing what you love, your purpose. And that's how I've designed my business. And that's part of those 7 secrets to a wealthy mindset. I realized 3 years ago, okay, what do you want to do, LeAnn? Now you got to get this out into the world. You can keep teaching people one at a time, or you can teach people. And that's why I went into the digital marketing, because it gave me a way to get access to more people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I thought when I was younger, when I actually started this real estate journey, one of my goals was to be able to retire by 40. And I am turning 40 in a month. And I certainly could retire if I wanted to. I have zero desire. I actually now, my goal is to be the old guy that walks into a closing getting a 30-year mortgage when I'm 95 years old. And people go, what are you doing getting a 30-year mortgage when you're 95 years old? And I go, well, I'm buying more real estate. Well, what are you going to do with this property? Well, I'm going to renovate it. We're going to get, we're going to raise the rents and we're going to sell it in 5 years. And that's the guy now that I want to be, not the guy that wants to retire when he's 40 and then do what? Like nothing. It's not fulfillment. You're absolutely right. And you're living a cool life. I would love to do some of that. Of course, I've got young kids, so I can't do that right now. But well, I guess we could if we wanted to homeschool, but it doesn't fit in our life. But yeah, just being able to travel, being able to explore and do things and learn new markets and meet new people, and still create. I mean, you're still creating, you're still building, you're still running a team, you're still having your coaching program, and that's fulfillment. That sounds amazing. And I'm sure you're doing it because you love it.
I'm doing it because I love it, but it's also, think about it, real estate is about passive income. Mm-hmm. And a program like I developed, digital marketing, that's passive income because it's all done. Evergreen. But what I love is my group coaching, my weekly group coaching, where my students get on there. I can be the proud mama of this, all these people having success in real estate. And it's my very connected people,
Yeah.
So what a great way to get some income, but yet really fulfill my large network of people. And same with my team. I bring in the leads and all that, and they do a lot of the running around, because real estate, showings they're not that fun always.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So my team really carries out all of that. And my
Yep.
beautiful network I've built over 25 years, I can still be in touch with all those people and get them the results that they want.
Yep. Yep. That's awesome. LeAnn, it's the season of giving right now. What do you like to do? How do you like to give back? Obviously, you've got your mentoring, your coaching. That's a massive part of how you give back. Are there any other ways that you like to give back?
I do like to volunteer, and I think even when I'm traveling, I was thinking of ways I can volunteer, and I know I'll find ways. But, through my church volunteering, and I have a heart for domestic abuse, and I volunteer there. And so more of the volunteering is how I give back.
Awesome. That's so cool. I love it. And it's been a big kind of passion of mine is to really be more thoughtful about how I give back. So I love hearing what other people do, and you're doing it. Like I said, you're doing a ton with your coaching and just with how much you give to other people and teaching them. But it's great to hear what other people do. So, all right. So last question before we wrap up: what are your 3 pillars of wealth creation?
Okay, I would say one of the biggest ones is figure out what your life purpose is and then live that purpose. And that's so critical. And I'm you call some people seminar junkie, but one particular training program, Landmark Education, made a big difference for me and helped me find that purpose.
Mm.
And it's a home for all people. And then the other one is believing in yourself, because that's critical as you grow a portfolio or as you step over the cliff. Just believing in yourself that you'll figure out, if you feel like you're falling, you'll figure it out.
Yep.
And I guess the third pillar goes back to the be generous and kind.
Nice. I love it. Yeah. Live your life on purpose, believe in yourself, and be generous and kind. So powerful. Definitely gonna, definitely 3 massive pillars of creating wealth. So love it. LeAnn, thank you so much for joining us. Ton of good value, fun stories. How can our listeners get in touch with you, learn more about your coaching program, just learn more about what you got going on?
Um, it's really easy. LeAnnRiley.com. It's spelled LeAnnRiley.com. It's pretty much all on there. You can read more into the coaching or the Encore Investment Team or whatever.
Awesome. LeAnn, we'll put that in the show notes. Again, I thank you so much for joining us, and a ton of value you're able to add to our listeners. So you have a fantastic rest of the day.
Great. Thanks so much for inviting me.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. I appreciate you being a loyal listener. I would love to have you go on to our Facebook page and subscribe, give us a thumbs up, go on to iTunes or wherever you listen and give us a rating and review. Don't forget to subscribe. Your rating and review just helps us push this out to more and more people and continue to grow our audience and hopefully positively affect a ton of people out there that really need this and want this. So the other thing I've got for you is a free ebook on my website. So go on to venturedproperties.com, and download our free ebook on real estate and on syndication. And I've got some data points in there, some really good stuff for you. So I'd love to have you take a look at that. It's free. I'm not expecting anything from it. And also, look, if you want some help in multifamily, want some help learning, growing, getting your business off the ground, I would love to talk to you about what it would look like to work with me potentially and see if that's a good fit. So you can go to coachwithdex.com and check that out. And we can definitely have a call. Thanks a lot for listening. You make it a fantastic rest of the day. I'll catch you on the next episode.